Hi folks, I'm Dennis. Today I'm going to do a knockdown finish on a drywall ceiling. Let me start by saying I'm not a professional, I'm just a homeowner, so I may not be doing this the way that the pros do it, but I've done it on a couple of rooms before. I'm finishing a bathroom ceiling today, and the way that I do it works. It gives me a nice finish like what I want to have. I'm going to be using a Harbor Freight texture spray gun. It's a cheap gun. It goes for $15 to $20 depending on whether or not Harbor Freight's got it on sale. This is the box. Item number from Harbor Freight is 66103. Like I say, it's a pretty cheap gun, but it works. It does a good job. I've got my own air compressor. I'm putting a bathroom in the basement, so I've got my air compressor in the shop. I've just run an air hose into here. I run about 45 psi of pressure to the gun. It comes with 3 orifice sizes. There's 2 of them. That's the small one. That's the medium one. And then for a knockdown finish, I'm using the large one. I just like the pattern that it gives better. One of the things that I do that I'm sure the pros probably don't do is I mask off all the walls, because I don't want to have to clean up the mess on the walls. So I've gone around and I've taped up craft paper on the walls. So once I spray the ceiling, I can just pull the paper down and not have as much of a mess. I'm sure that nobody bothers to take the time to do that if they're a pro, because they're probably way better at this than I am. So they don't need to do that. But I'm a little sloppy, so I'd rather not clean up my mess. The first thing that you want to do when you do this is you got to get your mud, your joint compound, mixed properly. I take a 3.5 gallon bucket of mud, and for a half of a bucket I put in 1 full bottle of water, just a regular bottle of water. So a half full mud bucket and a full bottle of water. Take it and mix it up real well, and you can, what everybody says to do is to have the consistency equal to roughly pancake batter. So everybody's got their own mix that they like. That's about the thickness I like mine to be. That seems to spray pretty well with the gun at 45 psi. So once I got that all mixed up, you want to make sure it's mixed up real well. Then you can pour your mixture in the hopper and get started. One of the things that you'll find about this gun is that, I'm going to show you real quick when I hook up the air to it. It flows air all the time, and then it pulls material out when you pull the trigger. So what I've seen other people do, which is a very good idea, is to put a 1/4 inch valve, shut-off valve, on the end of this gun, or on the inlet of this gun. That way you can shut your air off instead of just wasting all your air. I don't happen to have one handy, so I'm just going to have to connect and disconnect my gun. But that's a good little tip, is to just get you a cut-off ball valve to stick on there, and then put your fitting so you can pop your air on. Once you get your joint compound mixed up in the right consistency, then you pour it into your hopper. The hopper's it's half open. Pour it into your hopper. I would suggest, probably no further up than about like that, because you're going to have to tilt the gun back. That's why this is there. Keep it from coming back in your face. But also it gets a little heavy. There's an auxiliary handle on here where you can hold it, but it just gets a little heavy sometimes. I run my valve here out about 3/4 of the way, 7 or 8 turns. Thereabouts, and that'll affect the volume that comes out of the orifice. You can adjust that what I would recommend doing is taking a scrap piece of sheetrock or plywood or a piece of craft paper, something like that, and just spraying it to get your texture or your volume the way you want it, and then that way you can get the texture the way you want it. So that's how I got the gun set up. The largest orifice, the valve's out about 3/4 of the way, 45 pounds of pressure on my compressor, and so I'm going to fill this up and I'm going to shoot the ceiling. I'm only going to show you a little bit of spraying because I don't want to get joint compound all over my GoPro. But I'll show you a little bit of that and then come back and show you how to knock it down when you're done. So I got air hooked up to it, like I say, without a cutoff, it's just going to flow air, and then you're ready to spray. That's the other reason I like the mask off. I can use that for my test pattern. Alright, so I'm done spraying. You know, again, everybody's got their own personal preference with this kind of finish, with a texture finish. I personally hate finishing the sheetrock on ceilings, so I just do the bare minimum that I have to do on the ceiling, and then I spray a fair amount of texture. So this is what it looks like when you're done. Hopefully y'all can see that. I got it covered pretty well. Would have liked to have covered it a little bit better in places, but I ran out of mud. So it's gonna have to be what it is. Should be fine. I'm gonna pull my paper off, being careful not to touch the ceiling anywhere, and then I'm gonna get my knife and knock it down. By the time I get the paper off, you want to give it about 10 or 15 minutes after you spray it, and then that'll firm it up enough to where then you can knock down the tops with the knockdown knife. So I like to pull my paper off. That gives me about 10 minutes, and then I can come back and finish it up and I'm done. Okay, so my paper's all down. Now I've got a wet ceiling that's setting up, and I've got a Wallboard Tools knockdown knife. I got this one at Home Depot. You can pick them up any of your supply yards. It's a real simple little tool. 2 pieces, got a handle and a blade. The blade's got a couple of wing nuts on it. The handle on the blade end's got a bevel on it, so it puts the knife at a slant, so it makes it easy to rake across the top of the high spots on the joint compound. Just tighten that up, and now you can see it's got a slant on the knife, so you can drag the knife across the ceiling or the wall, whatever you're texturing, with that edge, and it'll just knock down the high points. You'll have to kind of play with it, determine how much pressure you want to put on it, and that'll determine what kind of finish you get. This may not be the professional way to do it, but I tend to start in the corner and kind of work my way in sections across the ceiling. It doesn't seem to make too much of a difference what pattern you go across in. I just try to do it consistently so that I go one section to the next, and it seems to work out fine. kind of a real light touch. And as long as you're careful with your walls, you don't have to worry about making a mess. And all I'm doing is trying to flatten out the high spots. So you can see the difference. Right there hasn't been done, and right there has been done. It just knocks down the high spots. The thing that I like about using the masking paper is that I don't get all the mess on the walls, and like in this room, I don't get a lot of mess on the in the shower stall, because it's kind of a sloppy process, and I don't want to have to go back and clean up a bunch of stuff. So the way I do it works for me. It may not be the best way of doing it, but it works. So this is probably the third sealing that I've done. So like I said, I'm definitely not a pro. This is strictly trial and error, homeowner grade work. So I'm sure there are better ways of doing it, but this works out for me. And as you can see, I'm just working my way all the way around the ceiling and knocking it all down. You don't get a whole lot of extra stuff on your knockdown knife. You get a little bit from splatter, but not much, because you let it set up a little bit, so it doesn't really take much off. It just flattens it out. You pick up a little bit of residue, but not much. Honestly, flatten out a spot too much or not enough, once you get it painted, it really looks fine. So that's also been my experience. You don't have to be all that particular about it. That's probably why people like to use this finish. So, all right, it looks like I'm done. I got a couple funky spots that I've hit with the corner of the knife, so I'm going to go through and smooth those out. And you can see how it looks now that I'm finished. Not bad. At least not bad for a rank amateur. So anyway, now all there is to do is, the only thing I've got left to do now is clean up. I'll clean up my knockdown knife. That Harbor Freight texture gun, you got to take it apart, take the hopper off of it, rinse it out real good, run a bunch of water through the gun. I actually take the gun apart. I take the needle valve out and the orifice off and rinse all that real good, and then let it set out and dry. And that way it'll be good for the next time. I've done that a couple times with it so far, and started right up this time. And you let this stuff dry. I'll probably let mine dry for a couple of days before I try to paint the ceiling, and it'll be all done. So that's it for the Harbor Freight texture spray gun, and for the for one way anyway to do a knockdown ceiling texture. I appreciate you looking at my video and checking out my channel. I hope this helped you out. So I hope to see you back soon. Thanks.